The text message wasn't meant for me. I know that sounds like the beginning of every cliché infidelity story you've ever heard. But here's the thing. I'm a forensic accountant. My entire career is built on finding patterns where others see chaos, spotting inconsistencies in numbers that everyone else overlooks. So when my wife Jessica's phone lit up on our kitchen counter at 11:47 p.m. with a message that read, "Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow." Same hotel? My brain didn't just register shock. It started calculating. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days of marriage. That's what flashed through my mind first. Not love, not betrayal, just numbers. Always numbers with me. I'm Tyler Brennan, and I should have seen this coming. Jessica was in the shower upstairs, singing some pop song I didn't recognize. The steam was probably fogging up the mirror she'd wiped clean to examine her reflection. The same ritual she'd performed every night since we met at a legal conference in Boston back in 2019. She was a rising associate at Palmer & Associates, one of the most prestigious family law firms in Chicago. I was there presenting on asset concealment in divorce cases. The irony wasn't lost on me now. I picked up her phone. No passcode. She'd always made a big deal about trust, about how couples who loved each other didn't need secrets. Another pattern I'd missed. The contact was saved as Pilates Tuesdays. Clever. I opened the thread. 6 months of messages. Maybe more if I scrolled far enough, but I didn't need to. The recent ones painted a clear enough picture. Hotel rooms on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Lunch breaks that stretched into 2-hour absences. A weekend in Milwaukee 2 months ago when she'd told me she was at a legal seminar. I'd even asked her how the seminar went. She'd rattled off details about family law updates and new custody precedents. All lies, delivered with the same confidence she used in court. The water shut off upstairs. I put the phone back exactly where it had been, screen down, charging cable at the same angle. Then I walked to my home office and closed the door. My hands were steady as I opened my laptop. No shaking, no tears, no dramatic heavy breathing. Just that cold, analytical part of my brain clicking into gear like it did when I found a discrepancy in someone's financial records. Jessica Brennan. Born Jessica Whitmore. Age 34. Junior partner at Palmer & Associates as of last month. A promotion she'd celebrated with champagne and me, in our bed, talking about starting a family now that her career was stabilizing. I pulled up our joint bank account first, then our credit cards. Then the statements I'd barely glanced at for the past year because I trusted her. Because I was busy with my own cases. Because I was a fool. There. Tuesdays and Thursdays, like clockwork. The Riverside Hotel downtown. Same charge, $247.89 including tax. Sometimes lunch at Antonio's Bistro beforehand. Once, a charge at Victoria's Secret I'd assumed was for me. For us. The office door opened. "Hey, babe." Jessica stood there in her bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel, skin flushed from the hot water. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. "You coming to bed soon? It's late." I minimized the browser window. "Yeah, just finishing up some work." "Go ahead, I'll be up in a few." She crossed the room and kissed the top of my head. I could smell her shampoo, that expensive brand she ordered online. Lavender, and something else. "Don't stay up too late. You've been working so hard lately." "I won't." She left, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the bedroom door closing above me. I pulled the browser back up and kept digging. Here's what most people don't understand about betrayal. It's not just emotional. It's not just about broken vows and shattered trust. When you're married, especially in a state like Illinois, betrayal has a price tag, a legal framework, consequences that can be measured and quantified. And I was very, very good at quantifying things. The affair partner's name took me 40 minutes to find. Jessica had been careful, but not careful enough. A cross-reference of her calendar, the hotel charges, and her firm's client list gave me a starting point. Then I checked her professional social media, looking for patterns in her likes and comments. Daniel Wright, 38. Senior partner at Blackstone and Reed, a corporate law firm 2 blocks from Jessica's office. Married with 2 kids based on the family photo on his firm bio. His wife's name was Amanda, and she looked happy in their picture, holding a golden retriever with their children smiling beside her. Another family about to implode. Another set of lives about to be upended. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. The smart move would be to confront Jessica now. Wake her up, show her the evidence, demand answers. That's what happens in movies. Big dramatic scenes, tears, shouting, maybe some thrown dishes. But I didn't get where I am by making emotional decisions. I opened a new document on my computer and started typing. Not a letter. Not a journal entry. A plan. Because if Jessica wanted to play games with our marriage, with our future, with every promise we'd made to each other, then she was about to learn something important about the man she'd underestimated. I don't lose. Not in court, not in business, and definitely not in my own marriage. The shower turned off at 12:03 a.m. I'd been sitting at my desk for 16 minutes, staring at the spreadsheet I'd built. 6 months of her life, reduced to rows and columns. Dates, times, locations, amounts. The Riverside Hotel appeared 43 times. Always the same room rate, $300 more plus tax. Always charged to Daniel Wright's corporate card. I saved the file to an encrypted drive, backed it up to 3 separate cloud services, printed 2 copies, one for my safe deposit box, one for my attorney. The printer's mechanical whisper seemed deafening in the quiet house. Her footsteps crossed the bedroom floor above me. I closed the laptop. By the time I reached the bedroom, she was already under the covers, her hair wrapped in that ridiculous microfiber towel she'd bought from some Instagram influencer. She looked up from her phone, a different phone, I noted, not the one I'd examined, and smiled. "Long day?" she asked. "The Clark audit." The lie came easily. Numbers weren't adding up. "They ever do?" She set her phone on the nightstand, screen down. "Coming to bed?" "In a bit. Want to finish some emails?" I kissed her forehead. She smelled like lavender and lies. Back in my office, I opened a different file. This one I'd started 4 hours ago, after I'd identified Daniel Wright. It contained everything I could find about him in public records, property deeds, court filings, corporate registrations. His wife Amanda's social media accounts. She posted frequently, mostly pictures of their kids at soccer games and birthday parties. The most recent post was from this afternoon, a photo of a dining room table set for 1, with the caption, "Solo dinner tonight. Dan's working late on the Meridian case. Again." Big law life. Wine night. Working late. Right. I pulled up Daniel Wright's firm bio. Harvard Law, class of 2009. Specialized in mergers and acquisitions. Made partner in 2017. His professional headshot showed a man who looked exactly like what he was. Successful, confident, entitled. The kind of guy who thought he could have everything. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I'd looked up an hour ago. "Riverside Hotel, this is Kevin speaking. How may I help you?" "Hi, Kevin. I'm calling to confirm a reservation for this Friday. Name should be under Wright. Daniel Wright." Keys clicking on the other end. "Yes, sir. I have a reservation for Mr. Wright, checking in Friday at 3 p.m., checking out Saturday at noon. Our executive suite." "Perfect. And that's for 2 guests, correct?" "Yes, sir. 2 guests." "Great, thank you." I hung up, opened a new document, started typing. Timeline for Friday, November 17th. 3 p.m. Jessica's calendar shows client meeting, offsite. Daniel checks into Riverside Hotel. 3:30 p.m. I arrive at Riverside Hotel. Request room with a view of pool area. Fear 4 sound 6 p.m. Document their arrival and activities. 6:30 p.m. Intercept at exit. The plan was simple, elegant even. I'd learned from years of forensic work that the best evidence is the kind you can see and touch. Digital trails are useful, but they can be explained away, disputed, challenged. A photograph, though, a confrontation witnessed by hotel staff, that's irrefutable. I pulled up my calendar. Friday was 3 days away. Jessica had already mentioned she'd be working late that evening. Of course she had. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother, Ryan. Still on for lunch tomorrow? I'd forgotten. We'd made plans 2 weeks ago. Yeah? Noon at Frankie's? Perfect. Haven't seen you in forever. How's Jess? I stared at the message. Ryan had been my best man. He'd given a speech about how Jessica was the best thing that ever happened to me, how she balanced out my analytical nature with her warmth and spontaneity. She's good. See you tomorrow. I set the phone down and returned to my document. Added another line. 7 p.m. Contact attorney. Begin divorce proceedings. I'd already identified the lawyer I wanted. Valerie Brennan. No relation, though I'd joked about it when I first looked her up. She specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. Her retainer was $25,000. I'd withdrawn the money from our joint savings account this afternoon, along with another $50,000 for immediate expenses. Jessica wouldn't notice. She never looked at our accounts. That was my job. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was a family law attorney who'd never bothered to protect her own assets. I'd spent the last 4 hours moving money. Not all of it. That would be too obvious, and potentially illegal depending on how the court viewed it. But I'd transferred enough to a separate account that I'd be comfortable during the divorce proceedings. The house was in both our names, but I'd been the one who made the down payment. I had the bank records to prove it. Jessica's salary was actually higher than mine now, after her promotion. That detail would matter when it came to spousal support. Or rather, the lack thereof. I pulled up the photos I'd found on Daniel Wright's corporate card statements. Dinners at Antonio's Bistro, $347.82 on September 12th. Flowers from Bella's Boutique, $156 on October 3rd. A jewelry purchase from Cartier, $4,200 on October 28th. October 28th was our anniversary. Jessica had told me she was working late on a deposition. She'd come home at 11 p.m. with apologies and takeout from my favorite Thai place. I wondered if she was wearing the bracelet right now, upstairs in our bed. The computer screen blurred. I blinked and refocused. No, not yet. Emotion was a luxury I couldn't afford until this was finished. I opened a new browser window and searched for Blackstone and Reed Ethics Hotline. Every major law firm had one. It took me 15 minutes to find the right number, buried in their corporate governance documentation. I wouldn't call it yet. That card was for later, after the divorce was filed. But it would be satisfying to know that Daniel Wright's career would implode right alongside his marriage. Senior partners who engaged in extramarital affairs with attorneys from other firms, especially family law attorneys who might create conflicts of interest, tended to find themselves quietly asked to resign. I added it to my timeline. Monday, November 20th. Anonymous report to Blackstone and Reed Ethics Committee. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification. From Jessica's iCloud account, which I'd had access to since we first got married. She'd given me the password herself, years ago, in that casual way couples share their digital lives. The email was from Daniel Wright's personal Gmail account. Subject line: Friday. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I took a screenshot, saved it to my encrypted drive, and added it to the evidence folder. The house was completely silent now. I checked the time. 1:47 a.m. In 7 hours, I'd go to work and act normal. Review the Clark audit. which actually did have some discrepancies I needed to resolve. Have lunch with Ryan and pretend my life wasn't disintegrating. Come home and have dinner with my wife and pretend I didn't know she was planning to spend Friday night with another man. 3 more days of pretending. I'd spent 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days building a life with someone who'd been pretending for at least 6 months. I could manage 3 more days. I pulled up a blank document and started typing a different kind of list. Not evidence this time. Action items. Wednesday, confirm hotel reservation for myself. Room with pool view, cash payment. Thursday, final review of all documentation. Ensure backup copies are secure. Friday, take personal day from work. Arrive at Riverside by 3:30 p.m. Friday evening, confrontation. Announce divorce. Contact Valerie Brennan to file papers. Saturday, change locks. Jessica's belongings to be packed and ready for pickup. Monday, ethics complaint. Inform Jessica's firm of conflict of interest. The plan was taking shape. Concrete. Executable. Each step leading inevitably to the next. I saved the document and shut down the computer. When I finally climbed into bed at 2:15 a.m., Jessica was asleep, her breathing deep and even. I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, and began counting. Not sheep. Days. 72 hours until everything changed. The 72 hours contracted to 60, then 48, then 24. I didn't sleep much. Didn't need to. My mind ran calculations, scenarios, contingencies. The kind of mental work that used to help me find hidden assets in complex divorce cases. Now I was the case. Thursday morning, Jessica kissed me goodbye at 6:47 a.m. She wore the navy suit I'd bought her for her promotion. The Cartier bracelet caught the hallway light. "Late night again?" she said. "Deposition prep. Don't wait up." "I never do," she smiled, touched my cheek. The gesture felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced it in front of a mirror. Maybe she had. Family law attorneys understood optics better than most. The door closed. I waited until her BMW turned the corner before I moved. My phone showed 3 text messages from Valerie Brennan, all sent after midnight. Divorce petition ready. Judge Keller will sign tomorrow morning. He owes me. Asset freeze in place. She won't access joint accounts after 3 p.m. Friday. Don't deviate from the plan. Emotion ruins everything. That last one made me laugh. A short, bitter sound in the empty kitchen. I'd built my entire career on emotional detachment. Finding patterns in numbers that told stories people tried to hide. A husband transferring money to offshore accounts 3 months before filing. A wife buying property in her maiden name. The data never lied, never rationalized, never made excuses. Jessica had made one critical mistake. She'd married a forensic accountant. Friday morning arrived with unseasonable cold. November in Chicago. The kind of weather that made people huddle in hotel rooms instead of facing the wind off Lake Michigan. I dressed carefully. Charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. Professional but not formal. The kind of outfit that wouldn't draw attention in a hotel lobby. The Riverside Hotel sat 14 blocks from our house. I'd driven past it hundreds of times without thinking about it. Now I knew the valet rotation schedule, the housekeeping shift changes, the exact angle of the security cameras in the lobby. Room 1247. Always room 1247. Daniel Wright's corporate card covered it. Blackstone and Reed's expense reports listed it as client entertainment. Technically accurate, I supposed, if you considered infidelity a form of entertainment. I arrived at 2:15 p.m., early. I wanted to watch them arrive separately, maintaining the fiction of discretion. The lobby bar offered a clear view of the elevators. I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink and opened my laptop. Just another businessman working remotely. Invisible. Daniel Wright walked through the revolving doors at 2:47 p.m. I'd seen his photo on the Blackstone and Reed website. Senior partner, corporate litigation, Harvard Law. The picture didn't capture his height, 6'2", maybe 6'3", or the way he moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. He went straight to the elevators, didn't stop at reception. The muscle memory of routine. Jessica arrived at 3:03 p.m. She'd changed clothes. The navy suit was gone, replaced by a cream-colored dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was down. She wore different perfume, not the Chanel No. 5 she kept on our bathroom counter. She'd packed a change of clothes in her car, probably kept them in her office. Another detail I should have noticed months ago. I watched her cross the lobby, watched the elevator doors close, watched the floor indicator climb to 12 and stop. My phone buzzed. Valerie Brennan. Judge signed. Freeze active at 3 p.m. Petition filed. You're clear to proceed. I waited 15 minutes. Then I took the elevator to the 12th floor. The hallway was empty. Thick carpet-absorbed sound. Tasteful artwork on the walls. The kind of hotel that charged $347 per night and promised discretion. Room 1247 was at the end of the hall. I didn't knock. Didn't need to. I had the confirmation number from my phone call 3 days ago when I'd pretended to be Daniel Wright's assistant verifying the reservation. The front desk had been very helpful. Instead, I found the housekeeping closet on the 11th floor and waited. At 5:23 p.m. they emerged. I heard them before I saw them. Jessica's laugh, the one she used to use with me. Light, genuine, unguarded. They walked toward the elevators holding hands. I stepped out of the stairwell behind them. Jessica! She turned. The color drained from her face in stages. First the cheeks, then the lips, then everything else. Daniel Wright's hand dropped from hers. Professional instinct, probably. Damage control. Tyler. Her voice was steady. Credit where it was due. She recovered fast. What are you doing here? Same thing you are, apparently, though I'm alone. Daniel took a step forward. The aggressive posture of a man used to controlling rooms. I don't know what you think. Room 1247, 43 visits over 6 months, $14,161 total, charged to your corporate card as client entertainment. You want me to keep going? His jaw tightened. Jessica touched his arm. A small gesture, protective. It told me everything about who'd initiated this, who'd pursued whom. We should talk, Jessica said. Privately. We're done talking. Divorce petition was filed at 3:04 p.m. today. Joint accounts froze at 3:00 p.m. You'll find the papers waiting at home. Her lawyer brain kicked in. I watched it happen. The shift from caught spouse to legal strategist. You can't freeze joint assets without... Judge Keller signed the order 2 hours ago. Valerie Brennan handled the filing. You know her reputation. Jessica went pale again. Everyone in Chicago family law knew Valerie Brennan. She'd destroyed bigger careers than Jessica's. Daniel found his voice. This is harassment. I'll have you arrested for what? Standing in a hotel hallway? I'm a guest here too. Booked a room this morning. Want to compare reservation confirmations? I pulled out my phone, showed them the email. Room 1156, paid in full. I was going to surprise my wife, I said. Romantic gesture, but she's obviously busy. The elevator dinged. An elderly couple emerged, glanced at us, kept walking. Jessica waited until they were gone. Tyler, please. Let's go home and discuss this like adults. Adults don't spend 6 months lying. Adults don't fake seminars in Milwaukee. Adults don't wear a $4,200 bracelet bought by their lover while pretending it's a gift from their husband. Her hand went to the Cartier bracelet. Unconscious movement. Guilty tell? How did you... I'm a forensic accountant, Jessica. I find hidden money for a living. You really thought I wouldn't notice the patterns? Daniel tried again. Look, whatever you think happened, I don't think, I know. I have bank records, hotel confirmations, text messages recovered from cloud backups, and a very detailed timeline. I also have photos of your wife Amanda and your 2 kids. Nice family. Does she know you're here? His face went rigid. You wouldn't. I already did. Anonymous email sent at 3:15 p.m. today. Complete documentation attached. I imagine she's reading it right now. Jessica grabbed my arm. Her fingers dug in hard enough to hurt. Tyler, stop. Please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can... You made 43 mistakes. 43 conscious decisions to betray our marriage. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. I pulled my arm free. The taxi outside is for you, I said. It'll take you home. Your keys still work until Monday when the locks get changed. Pack what you need. Everything else gets inventoried for asset division. You can't kick me out of my own house. Our house. And yes, I can. Judge's orders. You'll receive formal notice tomorrow. The elevator dinged again. I stepped inside. Your lawyer can contact my lawyer, I said. Don't contact me directly. Don't come to my office. Don't try to access joint accounts. The freeze is comprehensive. Jessica's expression shifted. The shock was gone, replaced by something colder. The look she probably gave opposing counsel in depositions. You're going to regret this, she said. I'm a lawyer, Tyler. I know how to fight. So do I. Difference is I have evidence. You have excuses. The elevator doors started to close. Daniel Wright stepped forward, blocking them with his arm. This isn't over, he said. Yes, I said. It is. I hit the close button. The doors shut on Jessica's face. My hands didn't shake until I reached the lobby. The elevator doors closed. I counted to 10, then pressed the button for the lobby. I didn't go to the lobby. At the 3rd floor, I got out and took the stairs back up to 5. The stairwell door had a narrow window. Through it, I could see the hallway outside room 512. Empty. They'd gone back inside. I settled against the wall and waited. 23 minutes later, the door opened. Daniel emerged first, phone pressed to his ear, his face the color of old concrete. Jessica followed, her arms wrapped around herself. They didn't touch. The easy intimacy I'd watched by the pool had evaporated. Daniel's voice carried down the hallway. Amanda, please, I can explain. The elevator dinged. They got in. I gave them 30 seconds, then took the stairs down. In the lobby, I watched through the glass doors as Daniel climbed into a black Audi and drove away alone. Jessica stood on the sidewalk, her phone in her hand, staring at the screen. She was calling me. I let it ring. After the 4th attempt, she tried someone else. Her mother, probably. Or her sister. Someone who would tell her this was fixable, that marriage counseling existed, that people made mistakes. I pulled out my own phone and opened the rideshare app. The car I'd ordered was 2 minutes away. Jessica's head snapped up as the silver Camry pulled to the curb in front of her. The driver's window rolled down. Ride for Jessica? She looked around wildly, then saw me standing 20 feet away just inside the lobby doors. I walked out. Your ride home. Tyler, get in the car. We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. You have until Monday at 5 p.m. to remove your personal belongings from the house. Clothing, toiletries, anything that's solely yours. Everything else stays for the property division. The driver was watching us with the studied neutrality of someone who'd seen worse. You can't just... I can. I did. The petition was filed at 2:47 p.m. today. You'll be served on Monday morning at your office. I'd specifically requested that. Palmer and Associates, in front of her colleagues. Your ride is waiting. Where are you going? That's no longer your concern. She didn't move. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. Jessica didn't cry easily. It was one of the things I'd admired about her once. Her composure, her control. Now I recognized it for what it was. The ability to compartmentalize, to separate truth from performance. "I made a mistake," she said quietly. One mistake. 43 hotel visits over 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. "How did you—" She stopped. "You've been tracking me. Documenting. There's a difference." I opened the car's back door. "Get in, or I'll cancel the ride and you can find your own way home. Either way, I'm leaving." She got in. I closed the door and tapped the roof twice. The Camry pulled away from the curb. Through the rear window, I watched Jessica twist around to look back at me, her face pale in the afternoon light. My own ride arrived 4 minutes later. A black SUV, not a rideshare. I'd arranged it yesterday. "Where to?" the driver asked. I gave him an address in Lincoln Park. 40 minutes in Saturday traffic. The city slid past outside the tinted windows. I didn't think about Jessica in the car ahead of me, heading to our house. My house now, if Valerie was as good as her reputation suggested. I didn't think about Daniel Wright, probably pulled over on some side street, trying to salvage his marriage through a phone call. I didn't think about Amanda Wright, opening whatever email Tyler had sent, her world fracturing in real time. I thought about numbers. The forensic accounting firm I'd worked for had been acquired 6 months ago by a larger company. The acquisition had come with retention bonuses, $180,000 for me, paid out over 3 years, with the first installment hitting my account in 2 weeks. Jessica didn't know about it. The bonus was tied to my individual employment contract, signed before the marriage. Separate property under Illinois law. The condo in Lincoln Park was a corporate rental, leased through the new parent company for visiting executives. I'd requested it 3 days ago, citing a need for temporary housing during a complex audit. The request had been approved in 40 minutes. The building was new construction, all glass and steel, with a doorman who nodded as I walked past. The condo was on the 14th floor. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen I wouldn't use, and a view of the lake. I dropped my bag on the floor and stood at the window. The water was gray-blue, choppy with wind. A few sailboats struggled against the current. My phone buzzed. Jessica, again. I declined the call and opened my email instead. Valerie had sent a message at 3:15 p.m. subject line, initial response timeline. Tyler. Expect Jessica to retain counsel by Tuesday at the latest. Given her firm's specialty, she'll likely consult with colleagues over the weekend, but family law attorneys generally don't represent friends due to conflict concerns. She'll need to go outside Palmer & Associates. Most divorce attorneys in Chicago know each other. I've already made some calls. By Monday morning, 5 of the top 10 firms in the city will have conflicts that prevent them from representing her. Nothing unethical, just preliminary consultations I've scheduled on your behalf. She'll find representation, but it will take her longer than it should. Time is advantage. Asset freeze is in place. She has access to her individual checking account, current balance $3,247.18 as of yesterday, and her credit cards, but the joint accounts are locked pending court order. Her direct deposit from Palmer goes into her individual account, so she won't miss any paychecks. I'll have the service of process arranged for Monday, 9:30 a.m. at her office. Professional, but public. It sends a message. Call me if you need anything this weekend. VB. I read it twice, then set the phone down. The condo came furnished. I found sheets in the hall closet and made up the bed in the master bedroom. The movements were automatic, mechanical. Hospital corners, the way my mother had taught me when I was 12. When I finished, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. This was the part where I was supposed to feel something. Relief, maybe. Satisfaction. The righteous clarity of justified revenge. I felt nothing. No, that wasn't quite true. I felt the same thing I'd felt standing in my office at 11:47 p.m. on Wednesday night, watching the numbers align into a pattern I couldn't ignore. A cold, settled certainty. An equation balanced. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Brennan? This is Officer Patricia Gomez with the Chicago Police Department. I'm calling about a wellness check request we received for your address. I closed my eyes. My wife called you. A Jessica Brennan requested we check on the residence at 2847 Maple Street. She expressed concern that you might be in distress. Are you currently at that address? No, I'm in Lincoln Park. I'm fine. Can you verify your location for me? I gave her the address of the condo. And you're not in any danger? Not a danger to yourself or others? I'm not. Mrs. Brennan seemed very concerned. Mrs. Brennan and I are in the process of divorcing. I'm not in distress. I'm simply no longer living at the marital residence. A pause. I see. And you're certain you're safe? I'm certain. All right, Mr. Brennan. I'll note that in the report. Have a good evening. She hung up. I set the phone on the nightstand and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Jessica was scared. Good. She should be. The thing about being a forensic accountant is that you learn to see the structures beneath the surface. Money doesn't just move, it leaves traces. Patterns. Every transaction is a data point. Every data point part of a larger picture. People are the same way. For 3 years, I'd watched Jessica build her career, her reputation, her carefully constructed life. Junior partner at 34. On track for senior partner by 40. She'd worked for it, earned it through 90-hour weeks and strategic networking and a ruthless ability to compartmentalize her personal life from her professional ambitions. I'd admired that. Loved her for it even. Now I was going to take it apart, piece by piece, using the same methodical approach she'd used to build it. The affair with Daniel wasn't just a betrayal, it was a liability. Palmer and Associates specialized in family law. Their reputation depended on discretion, on trustworthiness. A junior partner conducting a 6-month affair with a married senior partner at another firm, meeting at hotels during work hours, billing clients while she was otherwise occupied, that was a problem. I had the documentation, hotel receipts with timestamps, calendar entries that didn't match her firm's billing records, text messages that could be cross-referenced with her reported hours. I wasn't going to use it yet, but I had it. My phone buzzed again. Not Jessica this time. An email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: your podcast inquiry. I sat up. I'd sent that email on Thursday night, after I'd finished compiling the evidence but before I'd called Valerie. A single message to a podcast that specialized in relationship advice, infidelity recovery, and what they called strategic separation. The host was anonymous. The format was simple. Listeners submitted their stories, and the host, who claimed to be a licensed therapist, offered advice, validation, and occasionally tactical suggestions for those who wanted revenge instead of reconciliation. I'd listened to 17 episodes while building my case against Jessica. Now I opened the email. Tyler, thank you for sharing your story. I'd like to feature it in an upcoming episode, with your permission. Your approach is unusually methodical, and I think our listeners would benefit from hearing how preparation and documentation can shift the power dynamic in these situations. Would you be willing to do a recorded interview? We can keep you anonymous, voice distortion, pseudonym, whatever you need. Let me know. K. I read it 3 times. Then I hit reply and typed a single word. Yes. The podcast studio occupied the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in Wicker Park. I'd expected something more professional, a proper recording booth, maybe sound foam on the walls. Instead, I found exposed brick, mismatched furniture, and a card table supporting two microphones connected to a laptop. Tyler Brennan? The woman who opened the door looked younger than her voice had suggested on the phone. Mid-20s, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing jeans and a Northwestern sweatshirt. I'm Kayla Clark. Thanks for coming. I shook her hand. You said you wanted to record this week. Right to business. I like that. She gestured to a worn leather chair across from her setup. Want coffee? Water? I'm fine. She settled into her own chair, adjusting the microphone angle. So here's how this works. I ask questions. You answer honestly. We can edit out anything you're uncomfortable with, but the more raw and real, the better the episode performs. My listeners want authenticity, not polished PR. I listened to 3 episodes of Unfiltered Truths during the drive over. Kayla's format was simple. Anonymous guests sharing stories of betrayal, revenge, and recovery. No last names, no identifying details that couldn't be changed. The episodes I'd heard ranged from petty workplace revenge to a woman who'd systematically destroyed her abusive ex-husband's political career. How do you verify the stories? I asked. I don't, mostly. Some guests bring documentation, but that's rare. You mentioned you have evidence? I pulled the folder from my messenger bag. Copies, hotel receipts, bank statements, text message logs. Enough to show I'm not making this up. She flipped through the pages, her expression shifting from casual interest to focused attention. This is comprehensive. I'm a forensic accountant. Documentation is what I do. Right. She set the folder aside, opened her laptop, and clicked a few buttons. A recording interface appeared on screen. Okay, we're going to do a sound check first. Just tell me what you had for breakfast. Black coffee, 2 eggs, scrambled. She adjusted levels, nodded. Perfect. Ready when you are. The red recording light blinked on. This is Unfiltered Truths, episode 47, Kayla said, her voice dropping into the smooth, confessional tone I'd heard in the other episodes. Today's guest is someone I'm calling James, not his real name. James discovered his wife's affair using the same skills that made him successful in his career. What he did next is one of the most calculated responses to infidelity I've encountered. James, thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. Let's start at the beginning. When did you first suspect something was wrong? I walked her through it. The text message. The initial shock that had lasted maybe 30 seconds before my brain shifted into analysis mode. The way I'd cataloged every transaction, every late night, every Tuesday and Thursday pattern. You didn't confront her immediately, Kayla said. Why? Because confrontation without preparation is just emotion. I needed leverage. And you got it. I documented everything. 43 hotel visits over 6 months. Specific dollar amounts, dinners, gifts, room service. I identified her affair partner, found out he was married with kids. Then I hired the best divorce attorney in Chicago and moved our liquid assets into accounts she couldn't access. Kayla leaned forward. That's where most people would stop. File for divorce, split assets, move on. But you didn't. No. Tell me about the confrontation. I described the Riverside Hotel, walking into the restaurant where they were having dinner. The way Jessica's face had gone white when she saw me. Daniel Wright standing up, trying to salvage something, anything. I told them both I'd already filed for divorce, I said. That our joint accounts were frozen, that I had documentation of every dollar Jessica had spent on the affair, which meant she'd used marital assets for her relationship with Daniel. In Illinois, that matters for asset division. What did she say? She tried the usual things. It wasn't what I thought. They were just friends. She'd been planning to end it. I paused. Then she asked if we could talk privately. Did you? For about 90 seconds. Long enough for her to realize I wasn't interested in explanations or second chances. Then I sent the evidence to Daniel's wife. Kayla's eyes widened. While you were standing there? From my phone. I'd already drafted the email. Just hit send. That's cold. That's strategic. I met her gaze. Daniel's wife deserved to know. And Daniel needed to understand that his actions had consequences beyond losing his affair partner. What happened next? I left. Jessica tried calling, texting. I blocked her number. She showed up at our house, my house now, but I'd already moved out. She sent police for a wellness check, which was predictable. I was polite to the officers, showed them I was fine, and they left. Kayla was quiet for a moment, studying me. Most people in your situation would be devastated, angry, hurt, crying. You sound like you're describing a business transaction. Maybe that's what marriage becomes when someone treats it like a negotiation. She negotiated herself a lover. I negotiated an exit. Do you feel anything about this? Sadness? Anger? Betrayal? I considered the question. I feel relieved. 3 years of my life were built on a lie. Now I know the truth, and I can move forward with accurate information instead of false assumptions. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I have. She shifted topics. You mentioned you're planning to file an ethics complaint against the affair partner. He's a lawyer? Corporate law, senior partner at his firm. And yes, I've already drafted the complaint. Anonymous, but detailed. He used firm resources to facilitate the affair, billing personal time to client accounts, using the firm credit card for hotel rooms he claimed were business expenses. That's fraud. Will it work? It'll trigger an internal investigation at minimum. Whether it costs him his partnership depends on how much his firm values its reputation versus his billables. And your wife? She's also an attorney. Family law, junior partner. I have evidence she did the same thing, billing fraud, using firm resources for personal matters. But I haven't filed that complaint yet. Why not? Timing. Her firm will find out about the affair eventually. Small legal community in Chicago. When they do, they'll look at her billing records themselves. I don't need to accelerate that process. Kayla sat back. You've thought of everything. That's my job, finding patterns, identifying discrepancies, documenting evidence. I just applied those skills to my personal life. Some people would call this revenge. Some people would be right. I shrugged. But revenge implies emotion. This is just correction. She made choices that had natural consequences. I'm ensuring those consequences actually occur instead of being swept under the rug. What advice would you give to someone in a similar situation? This was the question I'd been waiting for. The reason I'd agreed to the interview. Document everything before you act. Screenshots, receipts, bank statements, emails. Save it all in multiple locations. Don't confront until you have leverage. Hire the best attorney you can afford. Not the cheapest, not the most convenient, the best. Move assets legally but quickly, and understand that the person who betrayed you will try to control the narrative. Get ahead of that. Anything else? Don't expect closure. Don't expect apologies that mean anything. Don't expect them to suddenly become honest just because you caught them. People who lie to you for months don't suddenly develop integrity when confronted. Plan for that. Kayla nodded slowly. That's dark. That's realistic. She checked her laptop. We've been recording for 42 minutes. I think we have enough for a solid episode. Unless there's something else you want to add? I thought about Jessica's voice on the phone yesterday, leaving another voicemail I hadn't listened to. About the Cartier bracelet I'd found in her jewelry box, the one Daniel had given her for their 6-month anniversary. About the way she'd looked at me in the hotel restaurant, like I was a stranger. Just one thing, I said. People think betrayal is the worst part. It's not. The worst part is realizing how long you believed something that wasn't true. How many conversations were lies? How many I love yous were just sounds she made? That's what stays with you. Not the betrayal itself, but the recalculation of everything that came before. Kayla was quiet for a moment. Then she reached over and stopped the recording. That'll be the opening quote, she said. The episode will go live next Tuesday. Anonymous? Completely. Change names, change cities, change professions. No one will know it's you unless you tell them. I stood, collected my folder. When do I get to review it? I'll send you a draft by Friday. You can request edits, though I rarely change much. She walked me to the door. For what it's worth, James, or Tyler, or whatever your real name is, you're either the most emotionally healthy person I've interviewed or the most damaged. I honestly can't tell which. Does it matter? Probably not. She opened the door. Good luck with the divorce. Luck isn't a factor, just preparation. I left her there, descended the stairs, and walked out into the gray Chicago morning. My phone buzzed. A text from Valerie, my attorney. Received response from Jessica's counsel. They want to meet. You available Thursday, 2 p.m.? I typed back, confirmed. What's their angle? Her response came immediately. Reconciliation. They're going to ask you to withdraw the filing. I almost laughed. Almost. Not happening, I wrote. See you Thursday. The meeting would be predictable. Jessica's attorney would argue for couples counseling, for time to work things out, for the sanctity of marriage. They'd imply I was being hasty, vindictive, unreasonable. They'd be wrong on all counts. I was being methodical, and I was just getting started. The Thursday meeting was scheduled for 2 o'clock at Palmer & Associates. Jessica's attorney, a man named Robert Paulson who specialized in high-net-worth divorces, had requested neutral ground, but I'd refused. If Jessica wanted to discuss anything, she could do it on her own turf, in front of her colleagues, with everyone knowing exactly why I was there. I arrived at 1:55 p.m. wearing my best suit. The same one I'd worn to our wedding, actually. The irony felt appropriate. The receptionist recognized me. Her smile faltered. Mr. Brennan, they're expecting you in conference room B. Thank you, Ashley. I'd brought her coffee once when picking up Jessica for lunch. 2 years ago. She'd mentioned she had a golden retriever named Biscuit. Small details. The kind of things I remembered about everyone because numbers weren't the only patterns worth tracking. Conference room B was on the 3rd floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Michigan Avenue. Jessica sat on one side of the mahogany table, Paulson beside her. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual polished style. She'd lost weight. Her blazer hung loose on her shoulders. I felt nothing. Valerie sat across from them, her briefcase already open, documents arranged in precise stacks. She nodded as I entered. Tyler, right on time. Traffic was light. I took the seat beside her, set my own folder on the table. Inside, printed copies of every hotel receipt, every restaurant charge, every text message I'd recovered, plus 3 items I'd prepared specifically for this meeting. Paulson cleared his throat. He was maybe 50, graying at the temples, expensive watch. The kind of attorney who charged $800 an hour and earned every penny. Thank you both for coming. I think we can resolve this situation amicably if... No. I didn't look at Jessica. There's nothing to resolve. The petition stands, the asset freeze stands. The only question is whether Jessica contests or accepts the terms. Jessica's voice came out hoarse. Tyler, please. Can we just talk? Alone? We're past talking. I made a mistake. I know I did. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. You made 43 mistakes. I opened my folder, slid a document across the table. 43 separate occasions over 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Repeated. Calculated. Paulson picked up the document. His expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. My client is willing to accept full responsibility for the affair. However, the asset freeze is excessive. Mrs. Brennan has been unable to access funds for basic living expenses. Mrs. Brennan has a salary of $135,000 annually. Her next paycheck deposits tomorrow. She has access to her individual checking account with a balance of... I glanced at my notes, though I'd memorized the number, $4,217. Hardly destitute. The marital home is jointly owned. She has full access. I'm the one who moved out. Valerie smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. My client has been more than generous. He could have pursued immediate sale of the property. He didn't. He could have filed for reimbursement of the $14,961 in marital funds spent on the affair. He hasn't. Yet. Jessica's hands trembled. She folded them in her lap. What do you want, Tyler? Just tell me what you want. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married 3 years, 2 months, and 23 days ago. The woman who'd stood in a garden in Oak Park and promised to love me, to honor me, to forsake all others. I want you to sign the petition. Uncontested. No alimony, equal division of assets, clean break. That's, Paulson started. Fair, I interrupted, given the circumstances. Given that I have documentation of not just the affair, but of billing irregularities at Palmer and Associates. The room went very quiet. Jessica's face went white. What are you talking about? I slid the second document across the table. June 14th. You billed the Kowalski estate for 8 hours of research. Your calendar shows you were at the Riverside Hotel from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. July 23rd. 10 hours billed to the Patterson divorce. Hotel checkout at 3:15 p.m. August 9th. Stop. Her voice was barely a whisper. 17 instances total. 63 billable hours charged to clients while you were with Daniel Wright. That's fraud, Jessica. That's grounds for disbarment. Paulson's expression had gone from confident to carefully neutral. He was calculating now, running the same risk assessment I'd run 3 days ago when I'd compiled this information. His client was exposed. Badly. My client made errors in her timekeeping, he said carefully. Errors she would be happy to correct and reimburse. I don't want reimbursement. I want an uncontested divorce. Jessica was crying now, silent tears running down her face, smudging her mascara. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't destroy my career. You destroyed our marriage. I kept my voice level. Calm. I'm just protecting myself. Sign the petition, and this stays between us. Contest it, drag this out, try to claim you deserve more than 50% of assets you helped devalue by spending marital funds on your affair. And I file a formal complaint with the State Bar Association, with evidence. This is extortion, Paulson said. This is negotiation. You should recognize the difference. Valerie added, my client is offering a clean exit. No public scandal, no professional consequences, no litigation over the affair-related expenditures. Mrs. Brennan keeps her career, her reputation, what's left of it, and moves on with her life. That's more generous than most betrayed spouses would offer. I slid the third document across the table. The actual settlement agreement, already prepared. You have until Monday at 5 p.m. to sign. After that, the offer expires and I proceed with litigation, including discovery, which will require depositions from Daniel Wright, Amanda Wright, and every employee at the Riverside Hotel who can testify to your regular Thursday afternoon visits. Jessica stared at the papers. Her hands shook as she picked them up. Tyler, she whispered, I loved you. I still love you. No. I stood up, collected my folder. You loved the idea of me. The stable husband, the nice house, the respectable marriage. You loved having someone who paid attention to you, who remembered your coffee order and your favorite restaurant and the exact shade of lipstick you wore on our first date. I paused at the door. But you didn't love me enough to stay faithful, and I don't love you enough to forgive that. I walked out. Valerie caught up with me at the elevator. That was cold. That was necessary. The billing fraud evidence? You're really willing to use it? If she makes me. The elevator arrived. We stepped inside. But she won't. She's a family law attorney. She knows exactly how this plays out if we go to court. Affair, misuse of marital funds, professional misconduct. She'd lose everything. And if she calls your bluff? I looked at Valerie. It's not a bluff. The elevator descended in silence. When we reached the lobby, Valerie said, "The podcast went live Tuesday. It's gotten 47,000 downloads already." I know. People are calling you a hero. Others are calling you a psychopath. I'm neither. I'm just someone who refused to be a victim. Is that what you tell yourself? I pushed through the revolving door into the October afternoon. Cold wind off the lake, the smell of roasting chestnuts from a street vendor, the sound of traffic and construction, and 1,000 lives intersecting on Michigan Avenue. I tell myself the truth, I said. She made her choices. I made mine. The only difference is I made mine with my eyes open. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Amanda Wright. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "When and where?" Amanda Wright was waiting at a coffee shop in Evanston, far enough from downtown that we wouldn't run into anyone from either of our former lives. She'd chosen a corner table, her back to the wall, a untouched latte going cold in front of her. I recognized her from the family photos on Daniel's firm website. In person, she looked older, tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from weeks of lawyers and crying children and explaining to a 7-year-old why daddy doesn't live at home anymore. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure I should. I needed to see you, the person who—" She trailed off, wrapped her hands around the cup. "The person who told me the truth." We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, college students typed on laptops. A barista called out drink orders. Someone laughed at a nearby table. Normal life, continuing. "Jessica signed the papers," I said. "Yesterday, uncontested." "Daniel's fighting me. His attorney says I can't prove he was unfaithful, that your evidence was obtained illegally, that—" She stopped, took a breath. "It doesn't matter. I know what I know." "I'm sorry." "Are you?" She looked at me directly. "You sent me that email knowing it would destroy my family. Are you actually sorry?" I considered lying, offering the platitude she probably wanted to hear. But Amanda Wright had driven 40 minutes to sit across from a stranger who'd upended her life. She deserved honesty. "No," I said. "I'm not sorry I sent it. I'm sorry it was true. There's a difference." She nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." She pulled a manila envelope from her purse, slid it across the table. "Daniel's been having affairs for 6 years. Not just Jessica. I found evidence of at least 4 others. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, emails. I hired a forensic accountant, someone like you actually. He found everything." I didn't open the envelope. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you were right. In your podcast episode, you said people who lie for months don't suddenly develop integrity when confronted. You said to expect them to control the narrative." She smiled bitterly. "Daniel told everyone I was crazy, that I was making things up because I was jealous of his success, that the evidence was fabricated. His attorney is arguing for full custody of our kids because I'm emotionally unstable. That won't work. Not if you have documentation. I know, but it'll drag out for months. Cost me everything I have in legal fees. And the whole time, he'll be telling people I'm the problem. She gestured to the envelope. I want you to send this to his firm's ethics board. Anonymous, like you did before. But this time, include everything. All 4 affairs. All the fraud. Everything. I pushed the envelope back. I can't do that. Why not? You destroyed your own wife's career. I didn't destroy anything. I gave her a choice. Sign the papers or face consequences. She chose to sign. I stood up. What you're asking for is different. You want me to weaponize your evidence because you're angry. I understand that. But it's not my fight. You started this. I finished my marriage. What you do with yours is your decision. I paused. But if you want advice, send it yourself. Not anonymously. Put your name on the complaint. Stand behind your evidence. Make him answer for it publicly, in court, where it matters. I can't. People will say I'm vindictive, They'll say that anyway. At least this way you control the narrative instead of letting him write it. I left her there, the envelope still on the table between us. Outside, the November air had turned sharp. I walked to my car and sat in the driver's seat, not starting the engine, just breathing. My phone showed 3 missed calls from my brother Ryan. I'd been avoiding him since the divorce filing. Avoiding everyone, actually. It was easier than explaining. I called him back. Jesus, Tyler, finally. His voice was equal parts relief and frustration. I've been trying to reach you for 2 weeks. What the hell is going on? Mom said Jessica called her crying. Something about divorce papers. It's done. She signed yesterday. Silence. Then, what happened? I told him. Not everything. Not the podcast, not the billing fraud evidence, not the calculated precision of how I dismantled everything. Just the basic facts. The affair, the evidence, the divorce. 6 months, Ryan said when I finished. She was cheating for 6 months and you never suspected? I suspected something was off. I didn't want to believe it. And now? Now I'm living in Lincoln Park. The house sells next month. Assets get divided in January. It'll be final by spring. That's not what I meant. I meant, how are you? Actually? I watched a woman push a stroller past my car, her toddler bundled against the cold. I'm fine. You're not fine. Nobody's fine after this. Then I'm functional. Is that better? Ryan was quiet for a moment. You want to get dinner? Just us, no questions, no therapy session, just brothers eating overpriced steaks and watching football. Yeah, I said. Yeah, I'd like that. We made plans for Saturday. I hung up and finally started the car. The condo in Lincoln Park had stopped feeling temporary. I'd bought furniture, hung pictures, established routines. Morning coffee overlooking the lake. Evening walks through the park. Work, gym, home, sleep. A life that looked normal from the outside. But at night, in the silence, I still calculated. Still ran the numbers. 3 years, 2 months, 23 days of marriage, 6 months of betrayal, 43 hotel visits, $14,961 in marital funds spent on another man. The numbers didn't lie. They never lied. But they didn't tell the whole truth either. The truth was that I'd loved Jessica. Not just the idea of her, no matter what I'd said in that conference room. I'd loved the way she laughed at my terrible jokes, the way she'd fall asleep reading case files on the couch, the way she'd believed I could do anything. The truth was that I'd destroyed her career prospects, not just strategically, but because some part of me wanted her to hurt the way I hurt. The truth was that I'd become exactly what I'd accused her of being. Someone who calculated outcomes and manipulated situations to get what they wanted, regardless of the cost. The podcast episode had been downloaded 93,000 times. People called me a hero, a role model, an inspiration. They sent messages thanking me for showing them that betrayal didn't have to mean victimhood. They were wrong. I wasn't a hero. I was just someone who'd replaced grief with strategy, who'd turned pain into a checklist, who'd convinced himself that winning meant he hadn't lost anything that mattered. The divorce finalized on March 15th. Judge Keller signed the papers without ceremony. Valerie called to congratulate me. The house had sold for $40,000 over asking. My share of the assets came to just over $300,000 after legal fees. I'd won. I sat in my condo that night, looking at the settlement statement, and felt nothing. Jessica sent one final text 3 days later. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. I deleted it without responding. Spring came to Chicago the way it always did. Reluctantly, in fits and starts, winter refusing to release its grip until April forced the issue. I threw myself into work, took on bigger cases, traveled more. Built a life that looked successful from every measurable angle. I dated occasionally. Professional women who understood ambition, who didn't ask too many questions about my divorce, who seemed content with surface-level connection. Nothing serious. Nothing that required trust. Ryan worried. Mom worried. I told them I was fine, and eventually they stopped asking. A year after the divorce, I ran into Jessica at a legal conference. She was there representing a client. I was there presenting on asset concealment, the same topic that had brought us together 5 years earlier. She looked good. Healthier than the last time I'd seen her. She'd left Palmer and Associates, started her own practice. Smaller client base, but thriving according to the professional gossip I'd heard. We made eye contact across the conference hall. She nodded. I nodded back. We didn't speak. That night, I listened to the podcast episode again. Heard my own voice describing the affair, the evidence, the confrontation. Heard myself say that betrayal wasn't the worst part, that the worst part was realizing how long you'd believe something that wasn't true. I'd been right about that. But I'd been wrong about something else. I'd told Kayla that I felt relieved, that knowing the truth meant I could move forward with accurate information instead of false assumptions. The truth was, I'd traded one set of false assumptions for another. I'd assumed that winning the divorce meant I'd won something that mattered. That documentation and strategy and perfect execution would somehow fill the space Jessica had left behind. Numbers don't lie, but they don't heal either. They just sit there, accurate and cold and utterly insufficient, while you try to build a life around the empty spaces they can't measure. I'm 41 now. The divorce is 5 years behind me. I made partner at my firm, bought a house in Oak Park, different neighborhood from the one Jessica and I shared, but close enough that I sometimes drive past our old street without meaning to. I still work too much. Still calculate everything. Still maintain the careful distance that keeps people from getting too close. But I've learned something. You can win every battle and still lose the war. You can have all the evidence, all the leverage, all the strategic advantages, and still end up alone in a house that's too big, wondering if revenge was worth the price you paid for it. Jessica remarried last year. I saw the announcement on social media. A tax attorney named Michael seems decent from his photos. They looked happy. I hope they are. I hope she learned something from what happened between us. I hope she's honest with him in ways she wasn't with me. I hope she's better than she was. I know I'm not. The podcast episode still gets downloads. People still send messages calling me an inspiration. I never respond. How do you tell someone that the victory they're celebrating left you hollow? That the precision and planning they admire came from a place of pain you wouldn't wish on anyone? You don't. You just let them believe what they need to believe, the same way I believe that destroying Jessica's betrayal would somehow undo the damage it caused. Here's what I learned, for whatever it's worth. Trust is a risk. Love is a risk. Marriage is a risk. You can minimize those risks with prenuptial agreements and separate accounts and careful documentation, but you can't eliminate them. And if you approach love like a forensic audit, looking for discrepancies and protecting against loss, you'll end up exactly where I am. Safe, successful, completely alone. The numbers never lie. But sometimes the truth they tell isn't the one you need to hear. Sometimes the truth is just that you had something real, something valuable, something worth fighting for, and you chose to destroy it rather than risk being destroyed yourself. I don't know if Jessica and I could have survived her betrayal. Maybe we couldn't. Maybe the marriage was already over the moment she walked into that hotel room. But I know this. I never gave us the chance to find out. I chose certainty over possibility, strategy over vulnerability, winning over healing, and I've been paying for that choice every day since. If you're reading this, if you're in the situation I was in, if you're gathering evidence and building your case and planning your perfect revenge, I won't tell you not to. Sometimes divorce is the only answer. Sometimes documentation is necessary. Sometimes you need to protect yourself. But ask yourself this: are you protecting yourself, or are you protecting yourself from yourself? Are you seeking justice, or are you seeking control? Are you ending a marriage, or are you punishing someone for making you feel powerless? Because there's a difference. And that difference matters more than any settlement agreement, more than any asset division, more than any perfectly executed confrontation. It matters because you have to live with yourself after. You have to wake up every morning and look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. I'm still working on that part. Some days are better than others. But I'll tell you what I know now that I didn't know then. The opposite of betrayal isn't revenge. It's forgiveness. And the person you need to forgive most isn't the one who hurt you. It's yourself for believing that winning would be enough.